Everyone is moving, or almost everyone. Look at the upper half of this photo. Hundreds of people passing through Kyoto Station in the span of however long the shutter was open. The left traces, smears of gray and white, the suggestion of a coat, a suitcase, a direction. They were here, and then they were gone. And in between, they became this blur, this beautiful anonymous fog of human movement. It was starting at the upper level, shooting through glass, and that matters. I'll come back to that later. But first, look here. There's a couple, bottom left, and they are not moving. In the middle of the busiest stations in Japan, a station that processes hundreds of thousands of people every single day with clockwork precision that makes the rest of the world feel slightly embarrassed about itself. These two people have stopped, and they're holding each other. I don't know who they are. I don't know if they just arrived or if they're about to leave. I don't know if it's a hello or a goodbye. The long exposure turned everyone else into ghosts. But them, they stayed. They are sharp, present, and real. The camera chose them, and that's when I knew what this photo was actually about. But first, let me tell you something about Kyoto. Kyoto is a fascinating city. It's almost like a mix of old and new. If you ever make it to Kyoto, there's a lot of things to do. One of the things that I found fascinating was walking the streets of Gion or hiking the Fushimi Inari. Fushimi Inari is an amazing experience. It's most likely it's going to be crowded. You can either wake up super early and show up, or you can go much later in the day. If you don't have that luxury, just show up whenever you can. The beauty of Fushimi Inari is that it's usually super crowded in the initial phases of it. Most people are just there for the pictures. And there's Kyoto Station, one of the most aggressive modern buildings I've ever stood in, steel and glass and these enormous soaring spaces. The floor covered in perfect geometric markings, orange, green, blue, color-coded lanes telling you exactly where to stand and what direction to move. We've been in the city for almost 2 days, and this wasn't supposed to be a photo opportunity. I was running out from the hotel to grab something for dinner. Like always, I decided to grab my camera with me. I showed up at the station. In the process of looking for food, I spotted this scene. Initially, I tried to take some quick photos, but I realized that taking a slow shutter was the best approach to this, and that's how I got this image, which for the most part was an expression of trying to capture the movement and the moment in that station where people are coming and going, where people are saying goodbyes or saying hellos, where they're hugging each other, where they might not have seen each other for years, where tourists are struggling trying to read signs, trying to figure out which line to take. But in the midst of it all, there was a story to be told, and that's what this picture is about. Here's the thing about this photo I can't stop thinking about. I shot it through a glass barrier. You can see the panels, those vertical lines cutting through this image. The chrome frame dividing the frame. I've been sitting with what that means, because that's what photography is, isn't it? You're always in some sense behind the glass. You take yourself out of the flow, you stop, you watch, you notice the things everyone else is walking past. Most of the time, I think that's for a small loss. But in this picture, the people I love most are the ones who also stopped, who in the middle of all that movement in direction and destination put their arms around someone and just held on. Maybe stopping isn't a loss, maybe it's the whole point. My name is Abdul, and I've been taking pictures for well over 10 years now. Most of that time, I've been doing things wrong. Or not wrong exactly, but incomplete. I was focused on the how, the settings, the gear, which lens for which light, whether I should shoot raw, whether it was good enough. whether my photos look like the ones I saw online from photographers I admired. At some point, I'm not sure exactly when, but I stopped caring about all that. Not because it doesn't matter, it does a little, but because I realized that none of it actually answers the question I was looking for. The question I was trying to answer was much simpler and harder than any of that. Why does a photo make you feel something? What the person holding the camera was trying to tell you by taking a picture, or what was going through their mind when they pressed the shutter. That's what I couldn't find anywhere. That conversation. I looked for it in books, in other channels, at least I haven't come across anyone quite yet. And I kept looking and searching for these answers, but most of what I came across were techniques, tutorials, gear reviews, or explanations of which mirrorless camera was the best. All of it is useful, none of it was what I was hungry for. So this channel is my attempt at starting that conversation. This is Switch Lens. Every video I make here is going to look for something like what you just watched. I'm going to show you a photograph, one of mine, usually from a studio I visited, a street I walked down, a moment I almost missed. I'm going to tell you the story underneath it, not the technical story, not the aperture or the focal length, but a human one. Why I stopped, what I was feeling, what I almost didn't see, what the photo turned into after I looked at it for a long time. Some of these stories will be about travel. Others will just be sharing my emotions, my experiences whilst taking that picture. Some of it will be about the moments I hesitated to press the shutter. Those ones, honestly, might be the most interesting. And I'll tell you that for a reason. I'll try to explain that to you. I think as years go by, as you take more pictures, you might come to have a second eye or a third eye, some will call it. You will develop a keen interest for what is good and not so good. And eventually, when you start going back to your archives, you will find old pictures and old photos that didn't look great or past the grade back then. But with your third eye, you'll begin to identify trends and identify stories hidden underneath stories that you can unearth and bring back to life with your experience. That is just to say, don't throw away your old archives. Keep them. Years later, they may become really useful when you have a second look at it again. The emotions that moved you to take a picture. Something reached through the noise of the day, through the movement, the blare, the rush of everywhere I was supposed to be, and grabbed my attention. And I think the act of stopping, of noticing, of deciding, that is worth stopping for. That's not just photography, that's the whole thing, really. This is Switch Lens, and my attempt at trying to explain my emotions and the reasoning behind why I take pictures, and hopefully that will inspire you to go out and take pictures and not worry so much about whether it is perfect. Only you understand the story underneath that picture, and oftentimes some of the greatest pictures ever taken, they might look uninspiring to the untrained eye. So don't think your pictures are not worthy. Your pictures are worthy, and people deserve to know the process and emotions and the reason why you take these pictures.